Welcome to the Veterinary Project Podcast, episode 103.
Welcome to the show created by vets featuring absolutely no pets. This is the Veterinary Project Podcast, hosted by Dr. Michael Bugg and Dr. Jonathan Light. Our resident veterinarians have swapped out their stethoscopes in favor of microphones to bring you the Veterinary Project Podcast, a show focused on real conversations, aimed to connect this amazing profession full of remarkable people. Through the sharing of collective stories and wisdom, and connecting over the many unique challenges we face, we invite you to join our community of veterinary professionals leading intentional lives. And now, here are the hosts of the Veterinary Project Podcast, Dr. Michael Bugg and Dr. Jonathan Light.
Welcome back to the Veterinary Project Podcast. You are joined by Dr. Michael Bugg and Dr. Jonathan Light. Mikey B, how are you today?
I'm doing fantastic, Johnny.
Yeah, you're having a good day today.
Yeah.
You're wheeling and dealing, making things happen, and we're in the middle of summer. What can go wrong?
Yeah, it has been good. Good weather, some deal flow on the real estate front. Yeah, I really can't complain.
You're getting out to the lake. You're looking lithe and muscular, we were told today.
Yeah.
I can't see that, but others can. You're looking good.
Well, we'll see.
You're getting back into the ball hockey training modes. Is that quite a different mode compared to what you've been doing running wise?
Oh, big time. Yeah. It's ball hockey's all starts and stops, quick sprints, like 30 seconds and you're done. So
You're off.
I mean, depending when we drop this episode, our nationals will be the second week of August out in Ontario, Canada. So
Nice.
That's what I'm gearing up for.
Well, I can tell you I've been working hard on the hot dogs and some beer and a lot more hamburgers because it's camping season. And you know what's been, actually, I'll tell you this from a separate, which is the absolute 180 from what you've been doing, is I had limited my choice on food over the last week and a half. And it's amazing because normally I'm pretty darn disciplined on it, but we're on vacation. I said, I'm going to relax on that end. It was a nice break. Now, I don't want to do it for a long time, that's for darn sure, but it was a good break. It gave the brain a little bit of a break from having to just make those choices on proteins, carbs, fats, etc. every day. It was a good break.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm a big believer in that. I think if you're too rigid, you almost want to rebel just to rebel. So you got to give yourself those breaks or those like cheat days or whatever you want to call them. But yeah, I agree. When you're on vacation, let loose.
It's nice. Like the monster Mr. Freezies that you have, and they're literally 2 feet long. But when we get back to the house, then the kids have their little 6-inchers and they're like, Dad, can we have 2 of these? Because it's still not as big as the monster. I'm like, sure, why not? It's the summer. It's amazing how things change quickly.
Yeah. The freezer creep there. They want more summer, lots of treats. And you have out in Calgary, isn't it well, at the time of recording here, it's Stampede.
Right in the middle of Stampede right now. And for all of our listeners, already they're at 500,000 through the gates. We've only been going for a couple of days and they're ahead of their attendance from 2019 pre-COVID. It's chaos. I tried to go to an appointment today at noon and just the number of cowboy boots, shorts, you name it. It's awesome. Hats, pancake breakfast, setting off the alarm upstairs this morning at 7:30 in the morning in our building. It's a fun time of the year.
It is. And I know back in the vet school days, I'd go find a cowboy hat and pretend to be a cowboy for Stampede. But where, like on a world level, like is this one of the top, like it's world
top 10, I think. Yeah. Top 10 for attendance from even now from an international perspective. Yeah. And then obviously it's the richest event from a rodeo perspective over the 8 days that it runs. Really cool thing for Mosaic is that one of our partners and veterinarians, her son made it into the steer wrestling. So into the 15-year-old category, I believe. He's running in the rodeo on Thursday and Friday this week, which is super cool. So he is all excited. They're just driving out right now. And that's a big deal to be able to get that exposure at 15 in the professional rodeo circuit, even though he's not in that circuit, but as part of the rodeo event, huge. So she's really excited. Yep. Their whole family's coming down right away. So nice to have those connections, even though it's 1.5 million people in this city. It is blowing up right now.
Yep. Yeah. I'd put it on the list for any listeners. If you're a fan of rodeo, The Calgary Stampede is a good one.
Yeah, rodeo, agriculture exhibits, eating weird stuff like deep fried Oreos and cheese. What's today? This year is eating cheesies that are deep fried, like just disgusting things. People like trying it, and then the rides. We're going to on Thursday night to enjoy with our kids who are 6 and 5 and are right into the rides. So it's great. But let's switch gears here a little bit today. We have Tanisha back on the podcast. I think this is number 4 or 5. She's been with us now over the last year, and an exciting episode today. This one, she had the grin all over. Would you not? Actually, you did say that. You could just see her glowing with excitement.
Yeah, she was beaming, and you could tell, like, and good for her. Like, I'm so excited for her. This sort of next step or adding it into it. She has so much on the go. It's like such an impact in veterinary medicine. So I'm really excited for what's to come down there in Texas.
Yep. And see, Mike is really trying to hold himself right now, because by the time that this airs, likely the announcement will be out and such, but we don't want to give it away because we're going to leave it for the podcast itself. For all of our listeners today, but we really get into the nitty gritty and go through the details, the evolution. And I think this will be a really worthwhile podcast for everybody to listen to, for anybody that is looking at ownership as a possibility in their life.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yep. Well, let's get into it. Let's bring on Dr. Tanisha Crocker to discuss what she has done in life with her husband and family over the last bit. Enjoy. Tanisha, welcome back to the podcast. We are excited. It has been a couple of months since all 3 of us have been back together. And in the pre-recording, we basically had to come to the point of just turning on the recording, because otherwise we would be hours later for the amount that is going on in your world. How are you?
I'm great. I am extremely excited to be here. And I honestly am I don't know, I'm bubbling over with all the things going on, and I'm excited to finally talk about it.
Well, fantastic. A conversation we had a few months ago revolved around veterinary clinic ownership. Obviously, you work with a group and you do emergency work as well as do social media, and you're an ambassador for that group. It's in a corporate setup. I work for a corporate setup, and yet we also have this ability to diverge and do different things in our careers. And a conversation that we had revolved around that, to do with you and your husband and looking elsewhere in the veterinary space. Without going further down that wormhole, tell us a little bit about what that conversation has looked like the last few months and where Tanisha finds herself today.
I think one of the biggest things that's defined my career is that I am very open to opportunity. I think our degrees allow us to do so many different things. And so in my hometown, my husband and I were actually approached by my dentist receptionist a couple of months ago, saying that one of the practices that I actually used to take my animals to when I was a kid was going up for sale, and that they wanted me to buy it. Obviously, I grew up here, so I know a lot of the veterinarians. And my first response was, guess what? I already have a job. I have a job I love. I love emergency medicine. Doesn't make sense. My husband, who is I guess, always looking for opportunity even more than me, entrepreneur, said, let's just take a look. Let's just hear, the numbers. And so we got more information. We started thinking about it more. And what it came down to is, if we didn't take this opportunity, would we regret it? Would we regret not buying a practice that's 7 minutes from our house, that we can both be owners in, that our kids can run around in, and that I can really turn into something that I've always dreamed of doing? And the answer was yes, we would absolutely regret it. So it was a couple months of due diligence. I mean, it's a process, right? There's some other corporations that tried to come in, but they really wanted to stay with a small business owner. And so I was able to purchase it, and I own a veterinary hospital now, which just sounds really, really crazy to say.
In the background, both Mike and I are cheering for you. That is a monumental change for your family, let alone the opportunity that arises from that. So first and foremost, congratulations, as someone that has similarly gone down that path in the last 1.5 to 2 years. It is a lot of work. And the opportunity there that comes as a result of that work, amazing. So congratulations.
Well, thank you. I definitely could not do it without my partner. My husband is owns multiple businesses and already manages and runs them and does a lot of the financing and all the stuff that is not as much fun to do as a business owner. And so he makes it a lot easier to take these opportunities and run with them. But I really felt like there was nothing stopping me. A lot of my fellow emergency veterinarians work really hard in the ER, and then they travel and they do really fun things on their time off. And I just decided to invest in a new business, and it happens to be a veterinary hospital, and just see where it takes us.
Excellent. So an opportunity arose, the assumption that I can't do that, I already have a job. Your partner, who also knows you obviously extremely well, goes, no, let's wait a little bit. Let's see what this is all about. Then you have competition, it sounds like, coming in from other interested groups. I don't even know what your relationship was with the vendor, with the seller. So we'll get into that a little bit. And then I'd love to hear what that due diligence process looked like in as much obvious detail that you want to go into. And then you've now been an owner for 30 days. Is that correct? About a month?
Yes. Yeah,
Give
about a month.
When we're recording this.
We're doing great.
This will be coming out, quite an far out from that time period. Would love to also hear what the ups and downs have felt like as you've taken on this new responsibility. So let's start off with going backwards to that first time. You heard this one's for sale. You look at that opportunity and go, no, can't do it. I'm an employee. What was going through both of your minds as you were sitting down and chatting about it?
I think that the automatic assumption is if you own a veterinary hospital, you have to work there, right? Like you have to be there 5, 6, 7 days a week. And obviously with the travel I do and the job I already have, which I love, I didn't want to do that. And I just straight up told my husband, I never want to be back in a hospital working 4, 5, 6 days a week. I've been there, I've done that. And so he kind of helped me see that what this was giving us an opportunity to build and grow a practice that hopefully other veterinarians and other people that we know want to work in. It gives me an opportunity to mentor and teach and train, which I absolutely love to do. It also allows us to open up a new revenue stream. We are going to renovate and have an office where I can film more content. And that will help a lot with things that I already do online. And so the marketing side of things. And so looking at it as a business owner instead of a veterinarian that had to be there every day really just changed my perspective on it. And so looking at it as more of an investment and then a practice that I was going to be in constantly took a little bit of the pressure off. We were very lucky that the seller didn't want to stop working. She loves what she's doing. She was just burnt out because she had been there every day during the week, for years as a single veterinarian. And so giving her a couple of days off here and there when I can in my schedule, and kind of changing things a little bit, bringing in some more support team members. I think that we are able to give her what she needed, which was to be able to breathe a little bit and not worry about those not fun parts of business ownership. And then it gave us an opportunity with the potential that this practice has. We bought the land, we bought the building. It's an acre prime spot, prime real estate. They're building 80 townhouses behind it with 3 dog parks. It is poised to blow up, and I see it becoming an integral part of the community and really helping a lot of pets and their owners too.
Fantastic. Mike, jump in. I see you're chomping there.
I love it.
Notes.
I love it. Well, number one, for people not watching this, your smile when you first were describing it, it's like, I don't know if we've had you on 3 or 4 times now, but it's like, this is like a whole new level of smile. Like you're beaming with it. So congrats. I love how you found the deal, the dentist receptionist. Like that is just wild. Like that's the relationship piece, and you like of growing up in a place and being a community member, and how these deals can just come to you because you're known. So I think all of that is amazing. And then I love how you said, would you regret it? And the answer was yes. And it's most people regret things they don't do. So I just commend you for, as always, stepping into it. I'm so excited for you. And then I won't take us down to the real estate side of the 1 acre in the building, although I'd like to, but it does sound like there's amazing potential.
So let's go in a couple of the semantics that I know that our listeners are going to want to know about. What's the size? So you said 1 acre, size of the clinic itself. What is the size?
It currently is about 3,200 square feet of the metal building, but there is an additional, I think, 2,000 square feet behind it. That's like a covered area where they used to do large animal. And so I think we actually talked to a designer today about maybe possible renovations in the next couple of months, but we would actually probably incorporate that space or part of it, because I do want an outdoor community kind of education area at the clinic too, where we can have events and we can do things. And so we can incorporate part of that and make it a little bit more. So I eventually see it being 45 to 5,000 square feet.
Excellent. How many exam rooms?
So currently it has 3. We already cleaned out a room to be able to put 4 in, and then eventually we'll have 5 would be the total. Yeah.
And from the due diligence, give us a brief summary in buying a clinic, what the hardest parts were, whether it was the financing, the Q&A, evaluation. Tell us from your perspective, what was difficult? What weren't you prepared for compared to having gone through the process now?
I think, again, I'm lucky to have my husband as a partner who has done this for so many businesses, because the nuts and bolts of due diligence and just the financial talk that they say and the different words about, how they're evaluating things, it is a lot and it's very overwhelming. And we were really lucky to have Bank of America. They have a really strong veterinary aspect of their bank, and they came in and really helped us with a lot of the loan application part of things. The hardest thing for me and the scariest part, honestly, was talking to the person who was the underwriter, the person who was going to make the final decision, right, on whether or not we could do this. And they basically said, you have to talk to them. You're going to be the vet. You're going to be the owner. They're going to have questions about your plans and just different things. And I was just so worried that they were going to throw out a lot of financial terms that I wasn't familiar with. And I honestly was sweating. I was driving the car. I had to pull over to the side of the road and was freaking out about it. I'm give me a GDV or a splenectomy any day, right? But I don't want to talk to somebody at the bank about financial stuff. And so it actually went really, really well. I have been thinking about being a practice owner ever since I became a veterinarian. And so when they started asking me changes I wanted to make to the practice, where I saw it in a year, 2, 3 years, those answers just rolled off my tongue. And so something that was really scary ended up working out really well. We got approved for the loan with no issues. And yeah, we got to move past that point. But that was definitely a part of it, that if you don't have somebody who is strong in the business side of things and really understands that, I can see where practice ownership would be very overwhelming for a lot of people to go into.
Interesting. So many nuts and bolts, like you said. And then you wrap in financing, you wrap in people that have a different acumen, different education, bringing them together. And you have this perspective of, oh, I won't know what to do. Oh, I'm not good enough. Oh, what it sounds like, oh, I might not be able to answer their questions. They might say no to me. They might tell me that my dream's no. And yet when you get into it, smooth.
Yeah, it was very scary. I think the whole time I almost felt like my husband was the one really convincing me. But that interview showed me how important it was to me to own something. So
there we go. I can remember back to my own part, and the one that jumped out to me was insurance. I was the most scared that my insurer was going to say no. And then we had to get everything, because you're buying equipment and doing everything you need to. And this is a startup as opposed to an existing practice. You're going, oh, what if they tell us no? Well, I still have to buy all this stuff. Then what happens? Knock, knock, knock. You have to knock on somebody else's door. Good for you guys. So then the due diligence period, a couple of months, would you say?
It was about 2.5 months. So it's a ways. And we didn't really tell anybody. We were this might not happen. This is, crazy. And we didn't tell family really. We didn't tell anybody until they said, yes, it's happening. And we signed the papers and we told everybody, because it just seemed like such a crazy thing, right? Such a pipe dream. And so for it to actually come true, it just didn't seem real.
And during that time, you're doing your day-to-day, you're seeing cases, you're traveling, you're doing everything else that is being a professional in all the different avenues of the veterinarian. Was there any points where you thought, hey, this deal isn't going to go through? And you did make mention of there was some other interested parties where maybe, the waxing and waning of relationship goes, maybe she'll go elsewhere. Was there any of those fears that came into your guys' mindsets? And if so, how did you deal with them?
So the initial price point was higher than we were comfortable going. And so we actually initially walked away and said, it just doesn't make sense for us. And financially, the numbers don't work. And we felt really comfortable and at peace with that decision. And they came back to us after 2 other companies came in and said, we want to buy you. And they were both corporations, and they had a lot of ideas that I think were very overwhelming for this one doctor practice. And we really understood that she wanted to keep the people that had been with her for so long and the clients that had been coming there for 25 years, keep them happy, not do anything that would scare anybody off, not overwhelm them, and realize that it really was like a family there because it was such a small group. And so I think that the fact that we were able to provide that, and we had a lot of meetings with them and talked to them about what we wanted to do, but how we wanted to make sure we maintain that, and that was important to us. We brought our kids up there sometimes when we walked through the clinic. Those things really reassured them that what we were saying was true. And obviously we were going to make changes, but those changes weren't going to be anything that took away from like what was really important to them and their core values. And so that trust caused them to come back to us and say, hey, we still really want you to be the ones to buy it. And we said, well, we'll make an offer, but it's not going to be, what you're expecting. And they said that works. And so we went from there. So it was definitely an up and down emotional time. But Shane and I, my husband, have always been, with any business, said like being almost like overly honest, right? And upfront about things. That's just how we do business. And it either works or it doesn't. But the fact that we are means that there's a lot of trust built. And I think that makes a big difference.
Excellent. In our pre-recording, you were speaking about a book that both Mike and I have to read. It was a have to, according to you. What is that book? Because that matches exactly what you're speaking about here.
So the book is called Radical Candor. I was introduced to it at a vet conference, actually. And it is about being a leader who is able to be really honest with people, whether it's good or bad, but and allow them to be really honest with you back, and actually encouraging your team to maybe have a little discourse and argue a little bit, but in that way you develop stronger relationships. People are allowed to shine, and your company grows in the best way possible versus kind of top-down leadership. And the core of that is trust. The core of that is really caring about people and not just about the business, but caring about the people that are really in it.
It's people that are running that business. No people, no business.
Yes. Yes.
I like in that whole sort of negotiation, if we want to call it that, like leading with your core values, and those just come out, and you guys, honest about it. A lot of people would think, okay, it's all about price, but it's like, no, it just showed like there's way more to it, and that trust and rapport that you could build. I think that's fascinating. And it's funny how that works, because you said this is 7 minutes from your house,
yes.
right? And you guys just built like your dream house.
Yes.
Now you have the dream clinic that you'll be able to create. It is funny how things work that way.
It really is. And, we drive by this practice all the time, and we always say, oh my gosh, it has so much potential. Like, look at the land, look at the, and so it still seems very surreal, like every time I drive up to it. And my favorite part, okay, just really quick, I know we always run tight on time, but the other day I said something, I was there. So I pick up shifts for her occasionally so she can have a break. And I was there and I said, it would be really nice if we could do this. And the practice manager looked at me and he said, you're the boss. You just have to say, do this, and we'll do it. And I was like, it was such a shift in my mind of, I've always wanted to be able to just run with my ideas and try things and like really make a practice like what I know it could be. And to have that freedom and be able to just, whether it works or not, like have it be really what I think it could be. It was life-changing, and it was really freeing, and it was a very cool moment, even though it was such a simple thing.
So good. So good. Excellent.
I kind of want to go a little more into that, because like you can really feel it when you say that, Tanisha. And I've like along in this conversation, you've talked about like being part of the community and mentoring and educating and setting up like these community like education events. Where did that all, like you said, it's been forever, like since you were like a little girl, or where did it come where you like this desire to own a vet clinic or own something?
I think that I have always had what's called like an owner mentality or owner personality. I've always been a leader, like in organizations I was a part of, right? I always have really cared about like the final product of anything that I did, almost to a point that it's been detrimental as an associate veterinarian, because you don't have the power to make the changes that you want to make a lot of times as an associate vet. So it sometimes felt like I was like banging my head against the wall in seeing something or saying, you know, maybe that's not the direction we should go in, and being disregarded, and then having something like really affect me, but I couldn't change it, right? And so the frustration really just kept building and building. And I think that's why I like my job with veterinary emergency group so much, because they really tailored it to like the things I'm really strong at and that I really enjoy. And I have a lot of ownership over my position and what I do with them. But to have full ownership over a hospital and be able to say, I'm going to take it from a 1-doctor hospital to a 5 to 7-doctor hospital. I'm going to do creative scheduling. I'm going to do these things with my team. I want the community to feel like they can really rely on us and learn from us, and just get to do those things that I've always wanted to do is really empowering. And I know I couldn't do it without the support system I have, but I really think that financially and just emotionally, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be and what I'm supposed to be doing right now.
Awesome.
I would agree.
So you've bought a vet clinic, and yet you're not going to be the main vet. Let's jump into that. How can that be? How can you do that?
I know it sounds crazy, but you can. There was a lot of thought that went into that too, right? Ultimately, if something ever happened to the vet that's there, we always know that I could jump in and I could do the job if I needed to. But I feel like my strengths are not being in the clinic every day as a veterinarian seeing clients. It's training and growing a team that can really provide the experience that I see, you know, being ideal for the clients. And so I really want that freedom I still have to attend conferences and to network and to work at the emergency room, because I feel like I grow so much of my skill set there and I really learn a lot. And I honestly have learned so much from working for Veg, just with the transparency and the open concept, that I want to incorporate a lot of that into a practice, and the way that the culture is with the team, and how we kind of all have togetherness, and we have, you know, team meetings, and there's just a lot of value there. And so I think that it's nice how everything intersects, and how I feel more like a conductor of it all instead of having to like play in the band. And I really feel like this is the role that I was always meant to play. I can work in a clinic. I've worked 60, 80 hours. I mean, I know I can do that. This is the next challenge for me. And I think this is going to be the hardest one yet, but I'm really excited about it.
You have that baseline, and as a fellow owner that has gone through that transition, there's always that fear factor, or that, oh, am I going to be able to do this? But it sounds, and watching you as you've evolved over time, you have all those base pieces, and those base pieces are going to come together in a nice synergy. And what I like with what you've described there, from an emergency, an urgent care setting to now a GP, is they do wrap together really well. You still see emergency cases in a GP, and vice versa. Those skills and the training, development, conferences, all then aligned to come back into your GP practice, whether it's recruitment, business efficiencies, all those other items that are important in a business. Wow, it's very synergistic. In my view.
I think that, no, I agree, and I hope so. We'll see farther down the road. One of the other big things that I've realized in my career is that I can't do any of it alone. And so one of the big things that I'm doing right now is assembling a team of people that will get me to where I want to be in the next 5 years, the next 10 years. And so part of that is I have a technician who's incredible that I've known for 10 years now. And she used to run the specialty center I used to be at. And she is somebody that I actually want to bring on as a partner. And I want to give her, you know, ownership in something, which I think is really important for support team members, and have her really like build a support team that is going to really be able to interact with clients and really grow, in their own right, and not just support the veterinarians. And I think that's really important. And in the ER, obviously, I rely on my team a lot. And so I want to take that into the GP setting. But knowing, right now that I need to build a group of people and, maybe make less initially to have that support and foundation to get bigger in the long run is where my mind is at. I'm not thinking 6 months from now, I'm thinking 5 years from now. And I even told my team when we started, I said, every decision I make, it might not make sense, but it's because I'm thinking 5 years on the road. Like, that's what everything is geared towards. And so I think bringing in people that are really great at what they do and really specialized and can really teach and train and speak to that is one of the most important things you can do as a leader. But that's just me.
Absolute. And then you need to take that vision and be able to transcend it through all the different levels of support so that they see it as well and communicate that 5+ times each. And then once they get onto that bandwagon, you have people that are on board for life. It's a pretty exciting journey. In your first month now, and then looking at this next 6 months, what do you see as both your husband and yourself's most important priorities if you're looking at just the day-to-day, especially considering your other responsibilities in your professional life?
I think right now we are still figuring a lot of things out. I didn't even realize how many distributors and companies that you purchased from, right? So just getting signed up with them. And then there's a couple updates we want to make with some of the equipment. I really want a great ultrasound because I think I can ultrasound. I'm certified in it. And so, demoing those. And then I want to update the software. So demoing that. So we're in those phases of just kind of, again, the nuts and bolts of the practice and what makes it run really well. And then hopefully in the next 6 months to year, we will have a plan for renovations and start that down the road. I also am trying to decide if we need to add another veterinarian at this point or if we need to wait a little bit longer. But we have the clientele that we could add one, and we just found a way to add another exam room. So I think that's one of the next steps too. But again, my husband is very smart and he knows me very well. And sometimes I lay in bed at night and I'm like, I got to do this and I got to do this. And my to-do list is so long. And he always says, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And so that's like our mantra right now is like one bite at a time. Like we're marking things off the list every day and we're not stressing about it because it's all going to get done eventually.
Awesome. I think this is probably my major final question is, there's always detractors out there. When this went live with some of your folks, friends, family, etc., was there any surprises and or thoughts to what is Tanisha and her husband doing? Why are they doing this? What are they thinking?
Yes. I think that my husband and I, though, in our close circle of friends and family have already established that we like to have a lot of balls in the air and like to juggle a lot of things. And that's kind of what we enjoy. Like some people enjoy having a lot of downtime and doing vacation. We like to sit and talk about what we have planned in our businesses and our future goals. And that's something that him and I are really well evenly matched on. And so we joke that we just adopted a third child, basically, and we just have this other thing that we're taking care of and we're figuring out. And for the most part, everyone has been extremely, extremely supportive. I think a lot of people are wondering how I can still do both jobs, but I was very upfront with the corporation I work for, that I had bought the practice and what my goals were for it, but that I still was very aligned with my job with them. I still very much enjoyed it. And so I think, again, being really open, honest, and transparent is important. And so they've been supportive in return. So I think that all around, it has worked out better than I thought it would. I know there'll be more bumps, in the road, but I'll just continue to be true to myself and true to where I want to be. And hopefully it continues to go well.
And there's always bumps in the road and you learn how to deal with them. And then that experience level goes up so you can handle more of it. And just as in my view, a slow, steady stairs of experience and wisdom and all those things that happen with time. So congrats. Mike, any words in closing? Those were my major questions I had for today, other than being extremely excited for both you and your husband, your family, to have your kids go in there, get involved in relationship building as well from the start. Everything, in my view.
Yeah, it's amazing. I love the partnership piece, with the key individuals that are going to bring a lot and bring their vision into it. You're not treating them as just an employee. You want them to have a seat at the table and have a say. And I think that's very important.
Yep. And what we didn't even get into this is the profit as well too. There is something to be, as a business owner, guess what? We need to make money as well too, which we didn't discuss. Another revenue stream.
And I was noticing that, and I was like, we're talking about a business purchase. And of course, you said off the start, the initial purchase price didn't make sense, and that, it has to make sense. But then there's been no discussion about it. It's a lot of times I think people can think, oh, you're going into business to make money. Like, oh, they're just chasing money. They're just chasing profit. And it's like, that's totally not it. Like, there's 10 things in front of it that light you up, that are the reasons you're doing this. And it's like, by following all those passions and making that difference, you're going to make some money. That's just the byproduct of doing it. And that jumped out at me. I really enjoy that.
I think that knowing that there's no limit to what you can do in this profession, you guys have inspired me, because you've done, very different things than being in the clinic every day working as veterinarians. And Jonathan, that's how we started talking about it, right? As I said, like, are you in the clinic every day, or are you just managing, running? And so it's interesting to me how much we put ourselves in boxes as veterinarians. And I think that the world is so much more open than that. And so I hope that by me doing this, it really encourages people to push themselves a little bit more and to jump at opportunity a little bit more, and especially women to feel like they can become practice owners, and that they have all the skills they need to do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Tanisha, there are going to be individuals that are going to want to reach out to you to learn more. I really thank you on behalf of both Mike and I for using this platform as one of those venues for sharing this great news. When they want to reach out, how do they get a hold of you?
So you can find me on Instagram at dr.tanisha.crocker, and TikTok is the same. And then you can always email me. I have a website, drcrockerpetvet.com, and you can email me through there. We'll put everything in the show notes, I'm sure. So we'll get you guys covered.
Also, let's not pretend that there's any vets that know about us that don't know about Tanisha. I mean,
let's keep it real here.
The other way around.
Let's keep it real here. Absolutely.
Oh, that's awesome. Well,
it's
I
pretty
appreciate
cool,
you guys.
Yeah,
I appreciate you guys having me on, and honestly being so supportive. There's been a lot of people that since I've told them have been super supportive and really great about it. And I will definitely be reaching out and asking you guys more questions, but I'm excited about the journey. We'll see what happens.
Darn rights. Well, with all of our podcasts, especially the ones where we have our group guest hosts here right now, the last word goes to you, Tanisha. What message would you like to share with the veterinary community?
I would like to just remind everybody that if you have a veterinary degree and you are not happy where you are, or you are struggling, that there is a lot of opportunity and a lot of different things that you could look at doing. And so I would encourage you to reach out if you ever just want to talk through the different options. I would encourage you to be open to opportunity. Networking is key, and you never know where you'll end up 14 years after you graduate vet school.
Thank you for listening to the Veterinary Project Podcast. As a recap, on behalf of our hosts, the Veterinary Project Podcast will be releasing new episodes weekly. So be sure to tune in as we bring you more conversations aimed at helping you enjoy a life well lived. If you enjoyed what you heard on the show and you want to stay in the know, please like, love, and/or subscribe to the podcast on the listening platform of your choosing, as we're available on all the usual suspects. If you know of others that may benefit from these conversations, we'd love it if you please share the show with them, as this will help us grow our community to reach more and more veterinary professionals. Speaking of which, if you are a veterinary professional and would like to get connected with more like-minded individuals who are joining us on this journey, please send an email to the veterinaryprojectpodcast@gmail.com, and we'll invite you to be a part of our private Facebook group. General feedback, requests for information, or perhaps requests to be a guest on the show can also be sent to the veterinaryprojectpodcast@gmail.com. Dr. Michael Bugg and Dr. Jonathan Light, thank you for listening to the show, and we'll catch you again next week for another episode of the Veterinary Project Podcast. Bye for now.